Can you imagine that in 2026, the world's only superpower, America, will lose to a country it has been sanctioning for the past 40 years? This isn't just my opinion, but rather what Professor Sain says. 2 of his predictions about Trump have already come true, and now we're waiting for the third.
The United States of America will ultimately lose this conflict, which will permanently transform the global order.
This is not some ordinary conspiracy theory, but rather a terrifying prediction by Professor Sain, an expert in game theory, which is now rapidly becoming a reality. If this turns out to be true, then within the next 6 months, the money in your bank account could become nothing more than worthless paper, and the world order could change forever. In this video, we will expose the secret script that the mainstream media is hiding from you. We will see how Iran's cheap $50,000 drones are crushing America's trillion-dollar pride into dust. And above all, is Donald Trump pushing the whole world toward destruction just to use emergency war powers or to extend his own tenure? A path that leads directly to secret societies and the end times agenda? In the next few minutes, you are about to see a side of the truth that the world may not even be aware of. Once again, welcome to Zem TV's videos. Viewers, Professor Sain's first prediction was that Donald Trump would win the election again, which turned out to be absolutely true. The second prediction was that as soon as Trump came to power, a horrific war would break out between America and Iran. And that too happened. But it was their third prediction that shocked everyone, that in this war, the world's biggest superpower, America, would be badly defeated. And this is not just a prediction. There are several logical arguments behind it as well. In today's video, we will do a complete post-mortem of this third and most dangerous prediction and try to understand how a military superpower could possibly lose to Iran. Professor Sain, who is a renowned expert in game theory and geopolitical events, made it absolutely clear in his latest interview that America cannot win this war under any circumstances. Let's get straight to the point and understand where exactly Iran stands at this moment. If we look at the professor's deep analysis, it becomes clear that Iran has not been preparing for this war for just the past year or two, but for a full 20 years. In their Islamic regime, this is seen as a final war in which they consider America to be the great Satan. Iran gained a great deal of experience from the war that took place last June. At that time, they didn't just attack, but also studied in depth the strengths of both America and Israel, the weaknesses of their defense systems, and their methods of attack. They had a full 8 months to prepare completely for this new attack, and during this time, by engaging in dialogue with America, they were doing nothing but buying time. The most important thing is that instead of fighting directly, Iran is making the best use of its proxies. These proxies include the Houthis of Yemen, Hezbollah of Lebanon, Hamas of Palestine, and various Shia militants from Iraq and Syria. All of them together have thoroughly read America's mentality and their way of fighting. Now, their strategy is not just to kill American soldiers, but their master strategy is to destroy the entire American empire and the global economy. Instead of confronting America directly, these people are targeting those countries that are the real strength of America's economy, namely the GCC countries, which include Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and Bahrain. You can gauge how dangerous and well-planned Iran's strategy is from the fact that they are not just launching missiles at military bases, but are also targeting the critical energy infrastructure and water systems of these Arab countries. These Middle Eastern countries have no natural source of drinking water. They process the salty seawater through desalination plants to make it usable. More than 60% of these countries' water comes from these very desalination plants. Professor Sain explained with a very frightening example that if a small Iranian drone, which costs barely $50,000, were to crash into and destroy a main water desalination plant in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, then in this city of 10 million people, the drinking water would run out within just 2 weeks. Just imagine. In only 2 weeks, an entire city would begin to die of thirst. At the same time, Iran has practically started to block crucial maritime routes like the Strait of Hormuz, from where 90% of these Arab countries' food and grain are imported. Generally, people think that this tension will only cause a bit of inflation or disturb the global economy, but in reality, Iran is currently threatening to wipe countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE off the map. And here, it is also important for you to know that these Arab countries serve as a backbone for America's economy as well. The main reason for this is the petrodollar system. These Arab countries sell their oil to the world in dollars, which keeps the demand for the dollar consistently high. Then these same countries reinvest those dollars back into America's stock market and real estate. These days, the entire American economy and stock market are built on artificial intelligence. The heaviest investments in these AI data centers come from these very Gulf states and Arab countries. Due to this war, if these Gulf states are unable to sell their oil, it is obvious that their economies will be devastated. And naturally, they will then stop making further investments in America's AI system. The day this Arab investment stops, America's fake AI bubble will completely burst, and along with it, the entire American economy will collapse to the ground, a phenomenon Professor Sain has described in his own words as a financial Ponzi scheme. Now the question arises, why is the world's most advanced and powerful American military unable to counter these cheap drones? The real reason for this is that the entire structure and mindset of the American military was built during the era of World War II and the Cold War. During the Cold War, the real competition was about muscle flexing, who had the most expensive and complex technology, who would reach the moon first, and who had the biggest missiles. America's whole air defense system is based on this kind of expensive and complex technology, which costs billions of dollars to build and operate. In contrast, the warfare of the 21st century has completely changed. This is the era of asymmetric warfare, where a very cheap weapon can destroy a very expensive system. Recently, a video coming from Israel has astonished defense experts all over the world. In that video, just an ordinary ballistic missile from Iran was coming towards the ground, and to intercept it in the air, the US and Israel fired 11 different interceptor missiles, but even then they couldn't stop it. On the other hand, the Iranian Shahed drones are entirely manufactured in Iran and Russia, meaning their supply line does not depend on any other country. The Shahed 136 drone, also known as the Geran 2, has proven to be a game changer in modern warfare due to its simplicity and low cost. These drones feature a two-stroke piston engine covering 2,000 kilometers at 185 kilometers per hour on 100 liters of fuel. Operating it is not very hard. You simply enter the GPS coordinates and send it on its way. And because it flies at very low altitudes, there are two advantages. First, wherever it passes, it spreads fear. And second, due to its low flying, it is very difficult to intercept. This drone, which is only 8 feet wide, can carry up to 40 kilograms of explosives. Stopping it with an expensive interceptor is like using a train to stop a car. The US Defense Minister and the Joint Chief of Staff told CNN that Iranian drones are causing a bigger problem than expected, and they are harder to stop compared to ballistic missiles. This is a huge financial disaster. On one hand, an inexpensive Iranian drone or missile costs just a few $1,000s, while the interceptor missile the US uses to shoot it down costs several $1 million. When you use a $2 million missile to shoot down a $50,000 drone, you simply can't afford to fight this war for long. Now, the US is rapidly running out of these expensive missiles, and they are having to use their military reserves in Asia, which they had set aside out of fear of China. This is actually a sign of the breaking of America's arrogance, which has allowed it to rule over the world for the past 20 years. If this continues, not only will the petrodollar collapse, but the world will rapidly move towards a multipolar order, where America's influence over the world will be buried for good. Apart from all this, so far the US and Israel have only been carrying out airstrikes, But history bears witness that no country in the world has ever been able to change another country's government solely through aerial attacks. For regime change, you absolutely have to deploy ground troops. According to statements from top US officials and the Secretary of War, the US currently has no intention whatsoever of sending its ground troops to Iran. In the coming months, the US will face intense pressure from Arab countries and Israel to send ground troops and wipe out the threat from Iran once and for all. Because if anything happens to these countries, America's petrodollar will sink along with them. So now the question arises, why did American President Donald Trump jump into a war about which the top military command had already issued warnings? According to Professor Sain, there are three major reasons behind this foolish decision that compelled Trump. First is overconfidence. Recently, after Trump led a small but successful operation in Venezuela, he became overconfident about the power of the American military. Just like how, after easily conquering Europe, Hitler became arrogant and attacked the Soviet Union, which ultimately led to the destruction of his army. The second reason is political gain. Even though this war brings no real benefit to America itself, Trump is personally gaining both political and financial advantages from it. Saudi Arabia and Israel are indirectly lobbying for this war. Remember that Saudi Arabia has made a massive investment of $2 billion in Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner's private equity fund. On the other hand, major financial backers of Israel, such as Miriam Adelson, are funding Trump's political career. No doubt, according to the US Constitution, a president cannot serve a third term, but Miriam has openly said that if Trump runs for president a third time, she will give him $250 million. It is also possible that under the pretext of war, Donald Trump could extend his tenure as a wartime president. In the third reason, the professor has openly stated that if you study the old leaks and Epstein files of the world, you will understand that the real system of this world is actually being run by certain secret societies. Chief among these is the Illuminati, split into three branches. On one side are the Jesuits who control the Vatican. On the other are the Sabbatian Frankists who control modern Israel. And thirdly, the Freemasons who control the national security and military of the United States. These secret and powerful groups firmly believe that in the end times there will be a great war in the Middle East, and in their view it is essential for Israel to be involved so that they can establish their heaven on earth. This is a pre-written spiritual script that they are determined to follow at any cost, regardless of whether there is any logic in this action or not. And even if it leads to the destruction of the entire world economy, they care only about their end times agenda. This was Professor Sain's third prediction, which after the first two, now also appears to be coming true. The essence of all these points is that America is fighting a war which, even if it wins by sheer luck, will still be considered a great defeat for America. Just as it happened in Iraq, Libya, Syria and Afghanistan, attacking Iran would also be like shooting oneself in the foot. What is your opinion on this? Please feel free to let me know in the comments section. I hope you will also give this Zem TV video plenty of likes and shares. See you in the very next amazing video.